All right, welcome. This is Peter Voogd, founder of prestigious Game Changers Academy, and thank you guys for tuning into our monthly Millionaire video series where we interview the world's most elite and successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, entertainers, and real game changers. People that I personally have massive respect for and those that I feel are making a big difference, not just in their industries, but in the world. And we have somebody today who I've been excited about for the last couple of months who has been getting real results and impacting people for a long time. And somebody that I feel has a true rags to riches story, who holds nothing back, gives so much value, but with candor and with vulnerability, but also a no BS attitude, which is a great combination. You guys know his bio. I'm going to still share some things that I think stood out that I want to put in context before we dive in, because these are important. His family came to the US with $200 from Armenia. A lot of you know he went through a lot of tough times, but he moved 14 times, cramming a family of 5 into a spare bedroom, going to jail, getting in police chases, getting beat up, and I'm sure a lot more that he'll share. But he's used all of his pain and all of his adversity to his advantage to create a true empire in the fitness industry and beyond. He's now the CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp. His company made Entrepreneur's list of the top 15 franchises with a couple hundred now. We'll talk about it, but I believe there's a couple hundred franchises. Made Inc.'s top 500 CEO list twice. He's also considered one of the fitness industry's most trusted advisors and one of the industry's most badass entrepreneurs. Also author of the best-selling book, Man Up. Bedros, great to have you, man. I'm excited to have you here.
Peter, what an introduction. Thank you, man. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your tribe.
Of course, man. So what's been on your mind? I want to start with this. What's been on your mind recently? What's kind of festering, and what are you thinking about? People like you are always trying to think of new ways to grow and innovate. What's been on your mind recently?
Yeah, I'll actually tell you what's on my mind. And actually, I was talking to Manny Koshman yesterday. He was here at the headquarters. This guy's got like one-off Bugattis and McLarens, etc. He's a real estate entrepreneur. And we were both kind of on the same page. Like, when is the bubble going to burst? I'm so curious. How much longer do I have for this run so that when the economy crashes, my marketing is going to change, the way I sell things is going to change, the way I position things is going to change. And then I started wondering, is anyone else thinking about that, or is it just me? Like, before the 2008 crash, I was already thinking like, all right, housing's going to crash anytime now. Not because I know anything about housing, but I know that it's all cyclical. And so I was already thinking, like, when it crashes, I'm going to have money put aside to buy a couple of rental properties. And also I'm going to be able to get more employees for less dollars because unemployment is going to be up. And I realized back then no one else was thinking of that. And I realized now nobody is thinking of that either. And so that's been what's on my mind. And it was refreshing to see that Manny shared the same feelings.
It's interesting because knowing your story, I think that's almost because no one thinks like that, by the way, Bedros. No one thinks like, how can we really prepare? How can we shift our marketing? How can we get employees for cheap? So that's amazing. You almost have a healthy paranoia in a way.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I was on Cardone's show one time, and he goes, what keeps you driven? I go, in my mind, there's somebody every morning. There's at least 10 people across the country in a basement on a marker board writing, how do I destroy Bedros and Fit Body Bootcamp franchise? And I wake up with that hunger, with that fear, with that drive. And it's a healthy fear, like you said, a healthy paranoia. And I think some of the best entrepreneurs have that.
And if you don't disrupt your company, I think somebody else will. So that's it makes sense why you're crushing it. So I want to walk through, because your story is intriguing, and I want to walk through some tipping points, because you changed the direction of your life, and it could have went a lot of different ways, but you let all the challenges, and I mean some really rough challenges, you use that to build a multi-million-dollar business. 99% of people that go through challenges do not use those to build a big business. They use those as a crutch, as a validation, and as a victim. What made you different?
Dude, I think what made me different is that, listen, when you escape a communist country and you come to a country like the United States where there's freedom and opportunity and no one's trying to oppress you, you have a different appreciation for freedom. Like, so many of my friends who are in the military say that I'm the ultimate American because I've seen the communist way of living. I've seen what it's like to be oppressed, and I've experienced that firsthand. So when we came here, I was full of so much gratitude, number one, for the country. Number two, for my dad, who risked his life. I was a 6-year-old kid. I wouldn't die, but my dad would instantly be killed if we were caught escaping. And so the way I looked at it is I owe it to my dad. He risked his life to bring us here. If I use any kind of bullshit excuse, now make no mistake, I wasn't an angel. I got into a lot of trouble. And by the way, it wasn't the jail. It was a holding cell at a police department. So hopefully that doesn't make me as thuggish. But and it was scary, you know, when the cops are chasing you and you're running with the wrong crowds, etc. But all that said, I remember thinking one day, like, is this why my dad brought me to the United States? Probably not. You know, he's not proud of me right now. We were on no talking terms at that time. And so it was easy enough for me to go, I got to make him proud. I got to turn the corner. And so I did, rather than being a victim. Well, I'm the foreigner. I didn't understand the culture. I got picked on as a kid, and now I'm going to go pick on other people. I adopted that mentality just for a little bit before the reality check set in, that I've got so much gratitude in me from my dad in this country. I better make the most of it.
So that stays on your mind. So a mix of gratitude and thinking about your strongest reasons. I think that's a lesson right there. It's just always focusing on what you're grateful for, as well as thinking about the reasons that drive you every single day. So do you remember the tipping points? If you can pinpoint, I know there's a lot of them. If you could pinpoint some of the major ones that kind of change the direction of your life, do you remember some of those?
Yeah. So early on, one of them was this ability to get resourceful when you're lacking resources. And I'll give you two examples. When we moved to the United States, we only had a couple $100, family of 5. I was the baby of the family, 6 years old, living in Section 8 housing, government assisted housing. And one of the times, it was a pretty shithole of an apartment we lived in Santa Ana, California. And I ended up getting lice because when we moved in there, it was just lice infested, and I got lice in my hair. Now, my parents always had to decide whether they're going to use the money for gas or for water or electricity. We never had enough money to cover all our bills. So when your kid gets lice, you're not just going to go to the grocery store and buy lice treatment. So my mom realized that we need to do this on the cheap. She had my dad siphon out gasoline from a parked car, and she washed my hair with gasoline as a kid to kill the lice. Now, if my wife ever did that with my kids, like it'd be over, right? Like that would never happen. Child protective services and all that stuff. But back then in the 80s, look, kid's not going to have lice. You got to do something about it. The other experience like that was my dad was pumping gas at a gas station, and it was inside of this shopping center where there was a grocery store. And Peter, he had discovered this giant dumpster in the back of the grocery store, and they were throwing away food that had expired, like bags of bread and cheese and milk and bread, etc. So at night, he would bring me there, and he'd push me into the dumpster, and I would pick out the food that had expired but wasn't necessarily bad. So we were dumpster diving for food, and it wasn't like, it wasn't filthy food. It was just maybe it had a little mold on it. My mom would pick it off or whatever. But I realized very quickly that in life, when you don't have resources, you can't just stop. You have to get resourceful. That carried on because when the economy crashed in 2008, and I was coaching and consulting personal trainers, like one-on-one personal trainers, pre-2008, dude, everyone's got a lot of money. Everyone can afford a one-on-one personal trainer. My life was good. The trainers' lives were good. Their clients' lives were good. The economy crashes, and no one's affording a personal trainer anymore. Now personal trainers aren't coaching and consulting with me. I went right back to the resourcefulness that I had learned by observation through my parents. And I go, all right, what is happening out there? How can I monetize? I know the outdoor boot camp, I'm going to bring indoors, create a system out of it. And the new personal training is not going to be $600, $800 a month anymore. It'll be $147 a month. It'll be one-on-many instead of one-on-one. So again, I got resourceful when the economy crashed, brought the outdoor boot camp in, and today we have nearly 800 locations worldwide. And I share this with you because most people, in the absence of resources, stop instead of start to get curious and wonder how they can fix it.
That's huge. The problem is not lack of resources, it's lack of resourcefulness. And you pulled from your past to be resourceful. And I mean, thinking about where you are now, it's amazing to see the progress just from being resourceful. You didn't blame the economy. You didn't blame your past. You use your past to actually build your future. I love that. So personal training. So is it safe to say, Bedros, that the economy crashing actually helped come to fruition your Fit Body Bootcamp?
Yeah. Up until that, I did coaching and consulting, which is great. I still do coaching and consulting, got 1,800 coaching clients. But dude, this big empire that I've built was literally the reason behind it was the economy crashing and me knowing that I can't coach and consult personal trainers anymore. and I'm not about to move my wife and kids, to live with my mom and dad. So I better pivot my business. Truth be told, I didn't think about franchising. My whole thing was I can license out my system for taking the outdoor boot camp indoors. 2 years of doing that. And by 2012, I had converted my licensing program into a full-on franchise that's just exploded.
I want to talk about the franchising, what kind of shifted your perspective and what made you go that route. But first, can you share with people where the passion for fitness and health came from?
Yeah. So again, coming to America, you're eating a lot of junk food, government food that you find. It's not like my parents were like, hey, go be athletic, go join the basketball team. So I grew up as a fat kid, man. And while I've got the gift of gab and I'm happy-go-lucky, I was a fat kid. And let's face it, in this country, when you're fat, you're kind of invisible. That's just the fact. And I love that because I love being in great shape now. So anyway, all that said, right around the summer, the junior year of high school, I had the hots for this girl named Nakaya. But I was a fat fuck. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to ask her out to the prom next year. And all I wanted to do, my goal was I'm going to go to the prom next year with Nakaya. So in my science class, there was this jock. His name is Dave. And I said, hey, Dave, you're on the football team. You're jacked. Like, how does a fat kid like me get in shape so that next year I can go to the prom with Nakaya? So he takes me to the school gym and he teaches me how to work out. It was the most intimidating thing I'd ever done. It was awkward. These guys are grunting and I'm just like, I don't belong in here. Well, anyway, I spent that entire summer working out like a machine, eating as clean as I could. And I didn't know what eating clean meant. So I just cleaned up my diet the best I could. But when you're a young man, you lose a lot of fat quickly. I came back the senior year of high school weighing about 38 pounds less and with muscle on me. Man, everybody was like, holy crap, look at you. And while I thought for sure Nakaya was going to be like, hey, man, let's go to the prom together, she obviously never asked me. And I wasn't about to ask her because I was still pretty shy. So I never made it to prom. But Nakaya shifted my path in life from being a smog technician. My goal was to go work in a automotive garage to be a smog technician. But I said, all I want to do now is help more people achieve the results that I did. Because when all of a sudden you go from being invisible, fat and invisible, to lean and visible, oh my God, what a great feeling. And so I just wanted to help more people do that. So I never made it to prom, but she helped me shape my career.
What a breakthrough. And I want to read this stat because it correlates to exactly what you talked about. This is mind-boggling, but it's also not surprising when you think about it and when you really ponder it. But 89% of gym members never get results.
Yeah.
You solved a huge problem and you connected the problem to something close to home that you were passionate about. And you have this multi-million-dollar empire that's inspiring millions.
Yeah.
I want people to understand and conceptualize that. You took a problem that you felt and now you realized 89% don't even get results. What can you say about that?
Well, you know what? I can say that in every industry, there's stats like that. And there's always people standing around like this going, well, someone should do something about that. In my industry, it was the same thing. These big, look, there's a 24-hour fitness where you live. There's a LA Fitness where you live. And they've been open for a decade. I know you're in San Diego or just outside of San Diego. I used to have my 5 gyms in Escondido, San Marcos, and those areas. So I'm familiar. Dude, those big gyms have been open for a decade. There should be a sign on the wall that says, sorry, can't sell any more memberships. But there isn't. And the reason is they know that thousands of people are paying their monthly dues, but 89% are not getting results. Of the 89%, 50% aren't even coming in. They're just paying their dues, right? So I knew that my industry was broken. And I knew that the 11% that was getting results, you either were a personal trainer or an athlete, or you hired a personal trainer, and that's why you got results. Well, what does the average person do who can't afford $600 to $800 a month for one-on-one training? And so when the economy crashed, and so this whole time I was like, well, someone should do something about that. And I realized if it must be, it's up to me. Like Elon Musk is like, hey, someone should do something about all this LA traffic. He goes, fuck it. I'm going to build a tunnel under the state and alleviate the traffic. So oftentimes you've got the solution to the biggest friction and frustration in your industry. You're just waiting for someone else to do it.
So you looked at some of the myths that you wanted to bust too. There's no talk about. I want you to talk about some of the myths in the fitness industry that you were trying to bust, and then we'll talk about some of the myths I think in building a business and entrepreneurship, but one of them was there's no 30-day weight loss magic pill. You wanted people to actually put in real work and really dig at the core issue. So what are some myths that really kind of pissed you off when you were coming up in fitness?
Oh, dude, there were so many. For example, now in my industry, obviously everyone was, especially back then, you'd see signs on the highways that says lose 30 pounds in 30 days. And of course, someone would walk into the gym, they'd come up to the personal trainer and they go, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds. Like I see those signs. So we had to educate them that, look, I can starve 30 pounds off of you in 30 days, but you're going to lose bone density, muscle, water, and a little bit of fat. And then we're going to crash your metabolism and you're going to be forever broken by way of fat loss. And so that's one big myth there. The other big myth was the infomercial space. When you think about the health rider, the tread climber, the gazelle, and dude, I'm all for marketing. Like I'm an entrepreneur through and through. But here's what I know about Guthrie Ranker, who was actually running all those infomercials, because they were going through me. They would come to me and they go, hey, Bedros, do you have a gym owner in this part of LA that we can give 6 gazelles to, and he can train these people 2 hours a day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks? So when you see in the infomercials that the person goes, well, I used the gazelle and lost the weight. Yeah, that's because a personal trainer had these gazelles in his studio, or the tread climber, and held these people accountable for 6 weeks and 5 days a week, 2 hours at a time. And so again, more myths. And so in fact, one thing I learned from Guthrie Ranker was that if the product doesn't fold and get conveniently stored away under the bed, they don't even want that. Not the gazelle, not the tread climber, not the health rider. Do you know why?
So people, I mean, they obviously, most of them put them away.
Boom, they put them away. And when you put something away, you forget it's there, so you don't ask for a refund. That's nuts. So there were so many myths in my space that I had to break. And then when I talk about the industry, the actual personal training industry, we used to sell personal training like 1 session at a time, 5 sessions, 10 sessions. One of my clients, his name is Jim Franco. He ended up being my first mentor in business. He goes, hey kid, how come you're selling 5 and 10 sessions at a time? I go, I don't know. Personal training's expensive, and that's how we do it in my industry. He goes, well, it's a broken business model. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I pay the gym $39 a month, and they take it out of my credit card. Yet every 2 weeks, you're selling me another block of 5 sessions, and you're acting awkward because you go from your trainer hat to your sales hat, and you're a horrible salesman. I was like, shit, man, he really let me have it. I go, so what should I do? He goes, you should be drafting my credit card every month. I go, Jim, you'd be paying $680 a month. He goes, so I can afford it. So can all your other clients. Wow. And it was a paradigm shift that there are so many myths in our industry. And personal trainers were telling me that that's no way you can put people on recurring payment for $600, $700, $800 a month, or you can sell a 12-month membership. Or when I took the personal training industry from 60-minute workouts to 30-minute workouts, because I had an aha moment. I got an idea. The only way I can leverage my time one-on-one is to train people for less time, less talking, more workouts, and let them do cardio on their own.
More results.
Right? Exactly. And so I just kept finding the friction in my industry, and then going back to Jim Franco, my mentor, and saying, look, here's another piece of friction. How do I fix this? And he goes, hey, kid, you do this. And so I was an absolute renegade in my industry in the late 90s, early 2000s. Ironically, the big industry certification, NSCA, declined me from speaking at their event. The Idea Fitness Conference declined me. And today they're paying me 50 G's to go speak at their events.
I want to hit on a point that you said that really inspired me, because I want people to catch it. You gave me chills there, man. You fired up. I love it. So you said that would be $680 a month. And your mentor said, so what?
Right.
You brought your limitation of money into your business, and that would have cost you thousands if he didn't call you out.
That's exactly it, because I was the broke-minded personal trainer, the meathead trainer who was eating his cans of tuna fish, excited to train people. Look, man, I will wake up at 4 a.m. and train you with fucking fire-breathing enthusiasm. And at 9 p.m., I'll train my client late in the evening with fire-breathing enthusiasm. But most personal trainers aren't entrepreneurial. We don't go into it for the money. We go into it for the meaning, for the significance, the purpose of serving others. And so to have an entrepreneur like that take me under his wing, literally becoming my rich dad, and God bless my father, he's my poor dad. He brought me to the United States, but he said, hey, go be a smog technician. Everyone's got cars. You're always going to have a job. Dude, you didn't bring me to the United States just to be a smog technician, but he didn't know what other advice to give me. So, the lesson here probably should be, 1, revolutionize your industry the best you can, and always look with a different set of lens at the problems in your business or your industry. And number 2, find a mentor who has been there and who is now where you want to be. And success leaves clues. Follow what they say.
So your vision was different. So you went for personal training, then the economy crashed. You started getting into like the body boot camp, doing boot camps, thinking about charging people consistently. What was it? Maybe it was Jim Franco, but what was it that allowed you to go the franchise route versus the small business route? Because people don't realize, I've studied a lot about franchises. I was going to get into some years ago, but you got to really have your business systemized and proven. So what was it? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, good question. And I wish I could say like, dude, I had this brilliance and this is what it was. But remember I said I started Fit Body Bootcamp as a licensing program, right? So it was like, hey, Pete, look, you're out there in San Diego doing boot camps outdoors in the park. Here's how we're going to make it weatherproof. Here's how you sign a lease and get equipment and build out an indoor boot camp, et cetera. And you would pay me $400 a month back then for the licensing fee to use the Fit Body Bootcamp brand. The one thing I did that forced me to become a franchise was I also gave Peter a protected territory because I wanted to make sure that we didn't give another Fit Body Bootcamp and park it next to you and make it competitive. Because if you think about CrossFit, it's an affiliate program, a licensing program, and so they don't give a protected territory. You oftentimes will see a CrossFit across the street from another CrossFit, and they're duking it out. No one's making any money. So I wanted to prevent that, so I gave Fit Body owners a protected territory. Well, the great state of California came to me 2 years in when I had about 180 locations, and they go, hey, the idea of giving them a protected territory automatically makes you into a franchise. You are operating as a franchise, but you're not one. We're going to fine you $2,500 per location that you have open. I said, look, if you find me that money, I'm going to go bankrupt. I don't have that kind of money. You know, $2,500 times 180 locations. And now you're going to have 180 locations that don't have any support because I do their marketing support. I go, what if we do this? What if I don't sell another location until I officially become a franchise, and then I'll, you know, operate as a franchise? To my surprise, they said yes. And the rest was history. 11 months later, we became a legitimate franchise. We had no sales for 11 months. Thank God for the recurring revenue, right? So the lesson from Jim Franco carried over almost a decade later, dude. And thank God for the monthly licensing fees that my clients were giving me. That kept me afloat during the 11 months while we were franchising in all 50 states. Yeah.
Amazing. So everything's happening like in order for a reason, because you're just being resourceful and putting in the grind and the hustle and solving a big problem.
Again, being resourceful, you nailed it, because I didn't have $2,500 times 180 locations. So I had to get resourceful and go, hey, look, can we talk about this? Can we just figure out a way that I can, maybe you won't punish me and I could do this in a different way? It's asking for a way out. Most people give up and they die so quickly, man.
Well, you didn't have an exact strategy. You didn't have you had a big vision and you had a lot of passion and ambition, but you didn't sometimes know the next steps. And I think a lot of millennials that I work with, especially in the academy, they're like, okay, what are the next 19 steps? And you're like, I don't know. I did not know the next steps. Is that how it was for you?
That's exactly how it was for me. And that's how it is for some of my best coaching clients, because I may not know the industry you're in, but I can tell you that if we get to the next step, we'll see the next one appear. That's how it is. Unfortunately, it'd be great if we could see the whole flight of steps and go, okay, in about 52 steps, we'll be at the top of our industry. You don't know if it's 52 steps or 5 or 2. What I do know is if I just take one more step, the next step will appear and I'll take action. And most people need to trust the process.
Love it. That's huge. I hope you guys are really conceptualizing this. So I want to dive into you're crushing it. You feel like you're on top of the world. Fit Body Bootcamp's growing. It's continuously adding value and changing people's lives. Then at some point, I don't know when it was, you go on vacation. Remember the story? You go on vacation and you get a call. You're finally on vacation. You're taking time off. You get a call. Your business partner's doing something shady, or you have to go fire somebody, and you literally leave vacation and go back to your franchise. What was that story? Because I want people to understand, Bedros, that they see you now and they're like, man, his story, yeah, he went through tough times, but everything's been perfect the last 10 years. He's making millions. That's not the case for you.
No.
In that story, what happened?
Dude, I'm so glad you brought that up, and thank you for doing your research. Seriously, like you're doing such value to your tribe right now. So here's really what happened. building up to that, listen, I was a marketer. I was a personal trainer who became a marketer, and I was marketing coaching. And then I marketed a licensing program. And then the state of California said, you got to become a franchise. So I started marketing a franchise. My team grew to about 6 to 9 people, employees. Up until that point, it was just me, my wife, and an assistant. And we were all hungry and driven and passionate. Now you got 6, 8, 7, 9 people. You got different personalities. You have different levels of passion and desire and work ethic and attention to detail. And most of us, whether you're a millennial or you're, I don't know what the fuck I am, Gen X or whatever I am, it doesn't matter what you are. You're a poor communicator, number one. You are indecisive, number 2. You have no idea how to lead people, number 3. And I was one of those people. So as my team grew, we started getting a lot of friction. I had a business partner in Fit Body Bootcamp, and I wasn't bringing up the topics and the conversations like I should have with him. And so I started building a lot of resentment towards him. I started getting passive aggressive towards him. Before you know it, now I'm getting passive aggressive with my wife because she's like, hey, you're always arguing with your, complaining about your business partner, but you're not doing anything about it. So now I come home and argue with my wife, and it started to lead to anxiety attacks. Well, finally, I should have had that talk with my business partner a year before, but I waited until the shit hits the fan. And unfortunately, too many people do that. They just wait and wait and wait and then explode, whether it's in a relationship, in a leadership, entrepreneurial space, whatever it is. And I did that. And I was on vacation with my wife in Palm Springs, and I got a text message of a campaign, an ad campaign that was supposed to be for Fit Body Bootcamp that was being run by a different brand of gyms. And I'm scratching my head thinking, how did this happen? And the person who sent me the text message was a Fit Body Bootcamp owner in the town that ad was running. Well, as it turns out, before we released the campaign to our Fit Body owners, my business partner had a handful of private coaching clients who were gym owners, but weren't Fit Body owners. He gave them that campaign.
Wow.
The guy took action, put it out before the local Fit Body Bootcamp, and now I'm stuck with egg on my face. So I was so livid. I told my wife, pack everything up. We're going back home. I called my business partner. I said, hey, meet me at the office. Called my friend who's an attorney. And I said, look, I need you to do me a free deal right now. Just negotiate this thing with me because I need to get out of this partnership or I need to buy him out. I was open to both options. And it just so turns out that I ended up buying him out, and it was the best thing we could do. But that's when a big pivotal moment happened where it was like, hey, dude, you're no longer a marketer. You're now an entrepreneur. You're now leading franchisees and employees, and you better turn your employees into team members that are driven. You better have clear vision of your business. Like back then, Peter, if you asked me, Bedros, how many locations do you want? I would say, bro, we want a lot. And you would say, well, when do you want it by? And I would say, as soon as possible. Now, if I got 9 employees, a lot could be 10, a lot could be 1,000. Soon as possible could be next week or 2 years from now. Now we know that we want 2,500 locations by the year 2023, which we know we have to get 1.3 locations a day, which means we need 62 EOIs, expression of interest forms, sent in to us here at the headquarters. And all 65 team members out there know that now. The vision is so clear and the day-to-day mission is so obvious that everyone's got the same purpose moving forward. And so leadership was something that was elusive for me. And man, those anxiety attacks and those arguments and the loss of money and the respect of my wife, truth be told, really set my ass straight. And it was a rude awakening that I got to man up and become a better leader.
And there's usually rude awakenings when you wait till your back's against the wall. So you're telling people don't wait till your back's against the wall.
Nailed it. Nailed it. When your back is against the wall, you have very limited options. But if you see that you're backing up against the wall, you have more options. Unfortunately, I chose to keep my head buried in the sand because I didn't know how to communicate. I was afraid of what was coming, and I just pretended it wasn't happening.
I hope people take this serious because you're doing the opposite of what you used to do now. So you said you waited till your back was against the wall. You didn't want to have tough conversations. You waited till the last second. Now you're polar opposite where you're like, I'm ready for the economy to crash in 6 months to 3 years.
Yeah.
So you literally flipped and do the opposite, which is amazing that you're using your past experiences as future preparation and future awareness.
Exactly. The pain was so great. They say pain is the greatest motivator. The pain was so great of potentially losing my wife, losing my business, losing the respect of the industry, that I was like, I'm never going to let up on my leadership ever again. And so I have the most brutal, open, honest conversations with my employees, with my business partners, with my wife. I asked for feedback, direct feedback. I'd never gotten direct feedback. I asked for feedback, and then Peter, if you're like, hey, Bedros, I think that you're unprepared and unorganized and da-da-da, I would go, you know what? I accept that. I'm going to get better at it. Instead of saying, well, no, I'm not. I just couldn't get the Google Hangouts to work or whatever, right? The old me was an excuse maker. The new me is, listen, I'm a fucking control freak, and I'm intense, and I'm going to stay on this track because I love the track that I'm on, where I get to make a lot of income, impact, and have a lot of influence.
So I want to, oh, this is exciting. So watch your self-talk. This is what I want to get at. It's all coming to me. You just said you're a control freak. You want to make sure you have absolute clarity. You also painted yourself in your past as a meathead. And that's the story you told yourself. You're like, I'm a meathead. I'm not a leader. I'm not an entrepreneur that can grow a multi-million-dollar business. And then you started to challenge yourself running marathons, and you were scared of heights. So you did some things to challenge your height. Yeah. So talk about self-talk. Then we're going to get into mindset and marketing. But you just said now you're painting yourself as a control freak. You want to build systems. You want to build a 2,500. You used to paint yourself as a meathead. I think a lot of people's self-talk is holding them back subconsciously.
Absolutely. There's two things that hold us back in life, and that is the thoughts that occupy our minds and the people we surround ourselves with. If I'm hanging out with chickens, I'm never going to feel and soar like an eagle. And if I've constantly got this negative self-talk in my head, I'm not good enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm just a meathead, I'm not designed to run marathons. Dude, I told my wife when we were dating, I was like, hey, if you marry me, I'm going to run a marathon with you, because she's a marathon runner. 9 years in, I never made good on my promise, and she was running 3 marathons a year. Finally, during that time when I had to finally man up as a leader, I was like, you know what? I got to make good on my promise to my wife. And I got to stop saying that I'm just a meathead and I'm designed to lift weights. I'm not built for running. And I hired a running coach. I trained for 6 weeks and I ran 26.2 miles. I ran a full marathon. And then I did 6 weeks of training with an MMA coach. And I'm not a fighter, man. I don't like fighting. I can talk my way out of any fight. And let me tell you, it was scary. It was intimidating, but I know how to take a punch and throw a punch now. I was afraid of heights. So I hired a rock climbing expert, and 3 times a week for 6 weeks, I was rock climbing. More people need to rewrite their identity. The problem is mom and dad tell us, well, hey, you're big boned, you're chunky. It's our genetics are fat. And so everyone, when you're a baby on up, grandparents, parents, school teachers, everyone's putting you in some fucking box, right? Like, oh, he's just a little slow. Oh, his personality is a little different. Oh, he's just a people pleaser. It's like everyone's writing in your book of life. At some point, you got to take the pen back and start writing your own pages of how the narrative is going to go. And that's what I was able to do in my early 30s. Mid 30s, and I hope your tribe can do that sooner.
How did it make you feel looking back and thinking about telling your wife that when you're married, you're going to run a marathon, and then 9 years not doing it? When you think back, does that kind of like get you a little frustrated thinking about it?
Dude, big time, because I think, you know, in my book, I talk about fighter jets and crop dusters. And even now, even though I ran that marathon with her, I had, so we were married for 9 years before I ran the marathon. She was running 3 marathons a year. So about 27 marathons she ran that I never ran with her, that I should have picked one and run, right? Like Tom Bilyeu talks about, when you can build credibility with yourself, your confidence will go up. Mm-hmm. I had lost credibility with myself because I made a promise to my wife. Even though it's a funny tongue-in-cheek promise, like, hey, marry me and I'll run a marathon with you, there's a sense of truth. And a man needs to keep his word. And I didn't keep my word. Yep. And that was my problem. And that created a slippery slope. If I didn't keep my word, I started gaining weight again during that time of anxiety because I didn't keep my word in working out and eating right. I started hitting the snooze button. I became the blueprint of a crop duster. And today I'm so fucking F-22 fighter jet that nothing can shift my focus.
How you do anything is how you do everything. So it's interesting how you made the easy decision not to run the marathon, and it seeped over in other areas, and then you lose confidence and start making bad decisions. Yes. I love that you share that as well. So as far as mindset goes, you talk about mindset in a different way, and I really like it. You talk about, you could give someone the best techniques. You could give someone your exact marketing campaign that you use that has generated millions of dollars. But if they don't have the right mindset and the right understanding, it's not going to work. So I wanted to dive right into sales and marketing, but I didn't want to dive in before you explain the importance of people having and understanding the right mindset as an entrepreneur and just as a fighter jet before getting the tactics. What's the importance of mindset?
So I'll explain it this way. Imagine that if I We take someone off the street who's drives an Uber car and it's a Honda Accord that they drive. We give them a whatever, a Bugatti, and we go, here's a super fast car. It's a hypercar that cuts corners and does this and beats all these time records. If they are not a skilled driver of a Bugatti, they cannot exploit all the value that the Bugatti can give. They're going to treat that thing like a freaking Honda Accord still, because that's what they're used to. And so mindset, where marketing is concerned, entrepreneurship is concerned, if I go, hey, here's my best marketing strategy, it's like, hey, here's a Bugatti. It's going to drive fast. Yeah, but you're going to kill yourself unless you're trained. And so you got to train your muscles of your brain. People go to the gym and work out. We work out all day long, and we know that if we push our body against adversity, it will grow, get leaner, more athletic. Yet as soon as we hit some kind of adversity in life, in business, we stop, we retreat, we give up, and we effectively say, I'm okay with my mindset atrophying. I want to build my mindset muscles. And for that to happen, I need 3 forms of resistance. And those 3 forms of resistance are this: resiliency, resourcefulness, and relentlessness. You have to be resilient, because I can give you my best marketing campaign that grew our franchise and got us tons of leads. But as soon as you go to run that Facebook ad campaign, Facebook is going to deny your ad. And if it's anything like me, they're going to shut down your account 4 times. I had my Facebook account shut down. So I had to be resilient.
Most people are done after 2. They're quitting.
Right. I had to get resourceful. So very quickly, we started a new account. We did it out of Boston, a friend of mine who's in Boston. And I said, hey, I'll pay for your shit. Just use your credit card. I can't even use mine. So you got to be resilient, resourceful, and relentless. I'm in a relentless pursuit of creating the outcome that I want in life. And that is how important mindset is. And if you can have those 3 R's in place, you can take any sales and marketing strategy and make it work for you.
So now let's translate the sales and marketing, because that's kind of a secret weapon for you that thousands of entrepreneurs have learned from you, and you're reaching a lot of high-paying clients, because there's so much, like you say, unpredictable or sleazy marketing tactics. I can't stand those either. I get a bad taste in my mouth. So where does an entrepreneur start when it comes to sales and marketing? What are the questions that ask themselves? What are the things that you think about when working with a client and taking their business and marketing it better?
Good question. So immediately when I get a client who's like, I have two clients, they're dentists, they're a business partnership. They own 5 dental practices in Seattle. I go, hey, have you guys figured out, because they wanted to improve their marketing so they can open locations faster. I go, have you figured out who your ideal customer is, your ideal patient is? They go, no. I go, but there's probably a common denominator, right? They're either more male or female. They're within a certain age group, certain financial bracket, maybe ethnicity, whatever. Like, we have to take all political correctness out. And so very quickly, we were able to identify their avatar. And when you identify an avatar, you're able to find the biggest fears, frustrations, and desires. And so that's always where I start. So in my space, when I said, all right, I'm going to get Fit Body Bootcamp up there and selling, I was like, what are the biggest fears, frustrations, and desires that personal trainers have? Well, the economy crashed. And so their fear is they're going to lose money. Their frustration is, I don't know how to run a business. And their desire is, I just want to be able to open up a gym and have someone do all the heavy lifting for me so I can train my clients. Once I've identified your fears, frustrations, and desires, now I can target you on Facebook or YouTube or Google, whatever the platform is, it doesn't matter. And what we do at Fit Body Bootcamp is we literally show case study videos of owners who are successful. And it literally ends with, and if you want to see if a Fit Body Bootcamp territory is available in your area, click here to check availability. And so literally the video of a case study, it could be Matt Wilbur from Michigan, who owns 7 Fit Body Bootcamp locations. He talks about how he lived in his grandma's basement and everything was doing great until the economy crashed. And then after that, he had to move into his grandma's basement, and he used 2 credit cards to buy his first Fit Body Bootcamp because he couldn't afford it on one credit card. Before you know it, we do the done for you marketing and the SEO and blah, 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 give you a funnel every month. And so he starts speaking to the fears, frustrations, and desires that the industry has. We just show that video and go, look, social proof, social proof. All I do is I sell with social proof. I can say how awesome I am all day long. You're going to be like, yeah, right. But if I put 20 different videos in front of you of case studies of male, female, black, white, Chinese, Armenian, of people who are successful, growing, and they keep pointing back to Fit Body Bootcamp, the franchise, soon you're going to go, I think there's something to this franchise model. So you got to find the avatar, identify their fears, frustrations, and desires, and then speak to them through social proof, third-party validation.
That's huge. Because I know a lot of businesses that kind of are vague with their avatar and they're vague with the fears. So once you really, and that's not like 3 hours. That takes some time. It takes some research, some due diligence, some study, some surveys. We've done that. And once we did that, Bedros, it was a game changer because, people don't do it. It's because it's not easy. It's not easy to figure out your ideal avatar. It takes some work and some stress and some headache.
That's exactly right. You know, it's funny you say that too, because as you can imagine, I'm in the personal training industry. I've got about 108,000 gym owners and personal trainers on my email list. Well, guess what? 90% are male because most of the personal training industry is male. When I send out an email broadcast now, I might put in the subject line, dude, all caps, right? All caps with an exclamation point. I get a great open rate. I know who my avatar is. He responds to dude. Now, that means I've got several thousand women on my email list. If they open, if they don't open, I don't care. I don't care. Those who open are more alpha-minded, male-minded, and I'm okay with that. Those who don't. So anyone who tries to market to everybody, you become nobody to no one. You know, I like to go narrow and deep. So I know, like, my guy, his name is Dave. My avatar, I know what he smells like. I know what he looks like. His name is Dave. He's 34 years old. He's married. They want to have a kid, but he knows that he's in debt with his gym. His gym is about to shut down. And if he has a kid, that's just one more expense, one more stress. What if the wife leaves me? And so these are the things keeping him awake at night. I know what his fears, frustrations, and desires are. When I write an email campaign, a marketing campaign, a sales copy, I'm speaking directly to Dave, and he's my bullseye. Now, there might be a 35-year-old, a 45-year-old, a 20-year-old somewhere on the bullseye, but I'm talking to my avatar because that's the majority of my prospects.
So you're going narrow and deep, and you're not trying to market to everybody. So some people will say, well, I want to market to everybody because I want to reach more people. Bedros is going deep and narrow, and he has 800 franchises. So shut that little voice in your head up pretty quickly.
Exactly. The riches are in the niches.
100%. So I want to go to some questions I've asked, kind of sprinkled throughout some of the questions our academy has been asking. But Matt Arrington has a question regarding franchises. What's for you, or what would you think about? What's the two most important factors when considering a franchise?
As into starting a franchise or buying into a franchise?
Starting
one, like I did.
Yeah.
So
what do you think about?
Yeah, one, proof of concept. If you want to be a franchisor, you better have a good proof of concept. If you look out there now, you don't see a lot of Quiznos or Cold Stone Creameries. Both of them had a great product. The problem wasn't the product. They both had a superior product compared to Baskin Robbins and Subway. The problem is they didn't have a process that almost made it predictable for their franchisees to become successful. The Federal Trade Commission said, sorry, you can't sell anymore, right? And so when you're in a position like that, you have to, one, have a proof of concept and have processes in place. So in my case, I opened up 5 Fit Body boot camps on my own first, made sure that whole indoor boot camp model worked, fine-tuned it, created processes. Now, over the years, the processes get better because if you try and make the perfect process, you'll never launch. You know that. But you really do need to prove the concept, number one, and number two, have more processes in place than you ever thought possible. I'm talking like put key in the door and unlock, turn on light switch, you know, unravel battle ropes, like that level of detail. And that's what we do here.
So that's simple. It goes down to like doing, because a franchise too, Bedros, you want someone that doesn't have a ton of experience to almost be as good as you when it comes to opening a franchise. You want it to be duplicated pretty easily.
Exactly right. And one thing Seth Godin talks about, and I'm a big believer in this, Seth Godin sent out a broadcast some time ago, and he said, franchisees are not entrepreneurs. And then he listed off 3 reasons why. 1, they don't want to problem solve. They want someone to have solved the problem for them. 2, they don't want to take a risk. An entrepreneur is willing to take risks. And 3, they're not willing to innovate. They just want to copy. And so knowing that, you can't give a loose system to a franchisee thinking, well, hey, they're an entrepreneur, they're scrappy, they're going to figure it out. They will fuck it all up, and it's your fault.
I'm sure that's been a problem in the industry too, is people assume that they're as resourceful as they are. Right. So they hand it off. Then I'm assuming they get mad when they don't crush it, but it's their fault for having loose systems. Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Here's a question from Steven. In your own words, how would you describe your mindset shift from just competitor to master?
Ooh.
Maybe are you still a competitor?
Dude, I think I'm still a competitor. I don't think maybe I'm chasing mastery, but every day I wake up, I'm like, do not hit the snooze button. Like I've gone so far, like, look, like you know, there's a snooze button feature where you can turn it off, right? I turned off that feature because I don't trust myself. Just because I told myself not to hit the snooze button doesn't mean I'm not going to. So I turn off the feature. Every day I'm paranoid that I'm going to slide back. And this whole conversation started off with, hey, Bedros, you seem to have some kind of healthy paranoia or whatever you called it. You know what? You better have that healthy paranoia. I got healthy paranoia that I better buy my wife flowers, open the door for her, text her little lovey-dovey stuff every Wednesday night. And tonight's Wednesday is date night for us. It's on the calendar because I don't kick it down the can. You know why? Because I have a healthy paranoia that if I'm not doing that stuff, some other guy will. And that's just the facts. Goes for your business, your kids, your relationships, your friendships, your money, your mindset. And so that healthy paranoia for me keeps me chasing mastery, but I wouldn't quite say I'm there.
I love that. And something I want to share too is when you make the money you make, when you get to 2,000-3,000 franchisees, something that I was wondering too, that you answered in a couple of your interviews, where people say, what happens if you do get complacent? All the systems are in place. The money's coming in. You're making millions. Your relationship's amazing. How do you combat the lethargic ways? And you said something that was brilliant. You said, I just put another challenge in my face. And that was the marathon. And it's funny. I was watching a special on Ellen too, DeGeneres, who's worth $400 million. She said, whenever I feel like an ounce of complacency, I put myself in a place that's going to scare me and challenge me. And I mean, it makes sense. Greatness does the same thing as other greatness does as far as people. So I love that you do that, because there's people probably, Bedros, that are going to watch this that might be crushing it and they might feel a little bit of complacency. So I respect you for having that mindset to put something in front of you that's challenging.
Dude, and I'll give you a great example of that just to kind of solidify your point there. Look, we've got about 800 locations. We're onboarding about 14 locations a month. It's like clockwork. We've got that figured out. Good for us. Yay. We keep raising our buy-in price and everything's still smooth like butter. So earlier this year, well, actually late last year, November of 2018, it's like, hey, honey, I think we need to start a supplement line. She's like, why would you want to start a supplement line? What do you know about supplements? I go, I don't know a lot about supplements, but I do know we're coming up to 700, back then, about 700 locations. And that means we've got a few million customers across the Fit Body Bootcamp brand, and we could literally convert every location into a supplement business as well. So we took on that risk. Dude, we were a few $1 million in before we sold our first bottle of protein just 2 months ago, right? That is throwing yourself against the wall again, backing up into the corner, figuring out. Now, I've got friends like Joel Marion and Andy Frisilla that I can lean on and go, hey, help me, you know about supplements. Teach me this. What do I need to know about that? What about formulation? And but let me tell you, I do not let myself get comfortable to that point, even in life. Let me see if I can pull it up actually for you. This will be fun for you guys.
Well, that shows the importance of network too. Having a solid network where you want to cut your learning curve in half, go talk to Andy, go talk to Joel. And I talk about that all the time. Networking is so crucial because it cuts your learning curve in half.
Absolutely. And in fact, just to show you that I keep my word, you'll see, maybe, I don't know if you can see in this picture or not, this is my own private gym, and that's a mat that I rolled out this morning because today, this morning, I started my new 6-week challenge, which is jujitsu training. I don't know anything about jujitsu. I did MMA. I'm a good puncher now, but I don't know anything about ground fighting. It's scary to me. So I hired one of the best jujitsu guys who's got a world record in the Anaconda chokehold, blah, 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 for the next 6 weeks, 3 times a week. That's it. He's going to put me through the paces. Guess what? That will directly impact my money, my mindset, my relationship in a positive way.
Challenging yourself, so huge. David wants to know, he's actually a personal trainer doing a great job, but you talked about something too, about how to get the most from your clients. So what's something you've kind of demanded your clients to do to realize the change in their body? What are the best ways to dig deep and motivate people to get real results, to flop that 89% on his head?
Good question. So the more that you can show them that you care and you're there for them, because think about this, as a personal trainer, like at Fit Body Bootcamp, we're 30-minute workouts. So what is a client doing the other 23 and a half hours, right? And if David here is a one-on-one personal trainer, maybe he's doing 60-minute sessions. What is a client doing the other 23 hours? And so now that you've got this cool little device, you got to go inefficient and make a, hey, Mrs. Jones, what's going on? Hope you're doing great. Just wanted to check in on you. It's 12 o'clock. Did you have your lunch and your protein and whatever? Because if you didn't, your metabolism is going to slow down. Then your willpower is going to go down. You're going to want to eat something sugary. And then send her that little selfie video. It's absolutely inefficient, but success is found in inefficiencies. Or a gratitude text message to a client. Hey, Mrs. Jones, just grateful for the workout that you did this morning. You brought the thunder. I'm motivated. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I hope you're having your protein shake because you can't out-train a bad diet. So it's when people know how much you care, they start leveling up in their effort. But if they go, look, he sees me in the gym for an hour, 3 times a week, and then I'm gone, then they start to slide. Yeah.
And he also wants to know advice for a trainer that's working, like you said, 30-minute to 60-minute sessions, but the client only wants to stick with those sessions and expects to see results, and they don't consider coming in. And this might be a mindset thing. I'm kind of getting that, but he says they don't want to come in unless they're just training with me. How do you get them to come in and do cardio and train more? Maybe it's the wrong plan. I don't know.
Good question. Education leads compliance, right? So I would say I would take one of those workout sessions and go, all right, Mr. Client, we're going to sit down together and we're going to talk about, you either need to come and buy more sessions from me because I need you in the gym more frequently, or you need to come on your own and follow this program because your goal is this. Yes. And you want to achieve it by this timeline. Yes. For that to happen, I need you in here 5 days a week. You're in here 3 days a week with me. So I need you here twice a week on your own. So education leads compliance. If you want someone to be compliant, educate them, be patient with them, reinforce the message over and over again. And at the end of the day, whether you're a personal trainer or any kind of service industry expert, see yourself as a doctor. I always see myself, even as a business coach right now, I see myself as a doctor. I diagnose your situation, your mindset, your economy, your industry. I diagnose and then I prescribe. I don't go, you can do this if you want. I go, no, this is what you need to do.
Love it. I think he's getting a lot of value. We've already gotten a ton of thank yous. Wow, this is brilliant, genius, love him. So people are already loving him, man. So I once again appreciate your time. I want to talk about area of genius, because once you get to that next level and you have that, if you still have the Superman syndrome, like we've all had, I had it where I thought I had to do everything myself. You said that your team doesn't really even let you get off track and do things you're not good at. They're like, hey, Bedros, get back to your area of genius. What's the importance for an entrepreneur to stay in their area of genius if they want to grow to 7, 8, 9 figures?
Bro, thank you again for doing the research. I appreciate you asking all the right questions. Look, we all have a certain amount of time in the day. We have 24 hours. Maybe 7 hours are going to be spent sleeping. Maybe you're going to spend an hour in the gym working out. You only have so many hours to work. Why is it that some of us get so much more done than the rest of us? 2 reasons. One is discipline. We are singularly focused on the things that matter. Number 2 is that the people who get the most done are typically people who focus on what I call the 5%. There's only 5% of the things you need to do in your business, Peter, that only you can do. For example, and this is going to sound funny to you, but I did not know how to turn on a Google Hangout. In fact, I didn't. The laptop is not even my laptop. My laptop is sitting next to me here. This is our video guy's laptop. He came and turned it on, and then he moves away. Like, I don't need to know anything. I learned this from Henry Ford. If you read Not Think and Grow Rich, is it Think and Grow Rich?
Rockefeller Habits?
No. Oh, crap. Who wrote Outwitting the Devil? And
Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon Hill. Is it Think and Grow Rich?
Yeah, Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
So both that and Outwitting the Devil. Yep.
Yeah. So Napoleon Hill talks about that there was a time when Henry Ford was on trial, and in the trial, the attorney was saying, look, you're not an accountant. How are you able to run a business? You don't know anything about automotive or mechanics. How are you able to build a car? You don't know anything about engineering. How are you able to build an assembly line? And Henry Ford stopped the guy right in his track. He said, young man, I may not be an accountant, a mechanic, or an engineer, but on my desk in my office, I have a box that has buttons on it. And when I push that button, I can summon the accountant. I can summon the mechanic. I can summon the engineer. And this is what I've learned is I just need to specialize in my zone of genius, the 5%. Like, no one else can do this hangout but me, right? I can't have my second in command come in here and do it. However, I don't need to know how to turn on the hangout. I don't need to know how to unplug the Wi-Fi's from here. I'm literally going to go and take my backpack and leave and go on my date with my wife. That's it. So I stay in my zone of genius. I work my 8, 9, 10 hours a day in my 5% instead of doing all the trivial stuff that I could outsource to the rest of my team.
So here's what's funny. 80% of the speakers, David Goggins, we just had on, same thing. So it's funny that you say that, and it sounds funny to people, but most of the speakers we have, Bedros, same thing as you. They don't know how to turn it on because they're so focused on their area of genius. And I think that's such a big difference between 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneurs and the legends, and the majority is they want to do everything themselves or they feel bad for delegating. And I love that you brought that up. That's huge. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for actually executing that on a daily basis. It's such a good example. You know what I mean? People just need to understand that they can't do everything themselves.
You can't. There's no way you can scale and do it all yourself and think that you're going to have some kind of a social life as well, or be a dad, or be a mom, or be a spouse.
Have you seen commonalities of people? There's a ton of people at 6 figures right now in entrepreneurship, like hundreds of thousands, and they just can't seem to get to 7. Have you pinpointed, or can you, like in your experience, see why most people never get past 7 figures in entrepreneurship and stay at 6 figures?
Yeah. Another great question. And here's what that is. They have low standards of expectations for themselves, and they have a low tolerance for risk. If I could go back, I would have broken through the 6-figure barrier a lot quicker if I had set higher standards for myself, which we talked about. Remember, I was like, hey, I'm just a meathead eating tuna fish. You know, I can't afford $560. Therefore, no one else can. Well, people can. People can afford that. So higher standards of expectations of yourself, and then don't be so allergic to risk. Like, since you're actually coaching and consulting millennials, guys, you can go bankrupt twice and still come back. And you know, I'm 44 years old and still come back and be where I am at 44. Right? Like, take the big risks now. So high standards of expectations, set the bar high, and take bigger risks. Those are the 2 things that are literally neutering people's growth into 7-figure.
2 more and we're done. Broke versus the abundant mindset. So broke versus poor, abundant versus scarcity, because you were the storybook kid that had the broke mindset. And even if you were getting results, you still had the mindset and it was holding you back. So what's the difference between broke and poor?
Yeah, good question. So poor is a state of mind. It's living in scarcity, in doubt, in fear, wondering if you'll ever have money. Broke is, look, I can make a couple of bad decisions with Fit Body Bootcamp and I might go broke again, but I'll never be poor. Broke means I'm temporarily out of money. Donald Trump has been broke 3 times, and he talks about it in his books, where he's gone to banks and says, look, I owe you hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm going to make right on this. But he's not poor-minded. I used to be poor, meaning I'm just a foreigner in this country, don't know my way around, blue collar, no college education. That is poor-minded. Broke-minded is, hey, listen, you may end up making a bad decision. You go broke, but I've got what it takes to be wealthy again.
Huge. So let's end with this. I want you to talk about your book. I want every single person to get your book. If you're not crushing it in life, if you're already fully satisfied and you have the perfect lifestyle, the perfect business, the perfect relationship, everything systemized, maybe don't read it. But if you have the hunger to level up, I'd strongly recommend reading Man Up. How to obviously just cut the BS out of your life. Talk about manning up and what it means to you. And AKA, I want to figure out, if you were talking to 1,000 young entrepreneurs, hungry entrepreneurs that want to get to your level, talk about what you would tell them if they really didn't have the guidance. Maybe they don't have the parenting. They don't have the specific resources or tools that you had. So man up. What's the importance of manning up? And what would you tell those people?
Good question. So the importance of manning up is this. It's really to human up. So sometimes I'll get messages from women to go, hey, you know, well, why isn't your book called Woman Up? Or are you going to write Woman Up? Or someone should write Woman Up. I'm not going to read your book. It's called Man Up. I said, stop right there. Human. We're all part of mankind. You need to human up to your highest potential. So man up just simply means stop making excuses, take control of your situation, and rise to your potential. And proof of that is I can go in the parking lot of this complex that we're in here and look in people's cars, and you'll see empty Starbucks cups and soda cups and sweaty clothes and hamburger wrappers. Well, listen, if that's how your car is, that's how your mindset is, that's how your body is, that's how your business is. And so why not rise to your higher potential? Why are you living like an animal? And I was that guy. I needed to have conversations, but I didn't have the conversations. I needed to lose the weight again, but I didn't want to go and work out again. I kept hitting the snooze button. I chose quesadillas over grilled chicken, right? And it was those. So it's like time to man up, stop making excuses, and rise to your potential. Those millennials then who think that, well, time's on my side, I got plenty of time. I can tell you that if I can go back, I would have wanted to achieve the levels of success I have now a decade sooner. And I could have by doing the 2 things that I talked about, which was, again, setting higher standards of expectations. And if I can go back and talk to like the millennial version of me, it'd be higher standards of expectations and take bigger risks. That doesn't mean stupid risks. That just means take bigger risks. The economy is as good as it's ever going to be right now. Like, now is the time to strike. Don't be pussyfooting around right now.
I appreciate you, man. Just not just for the businesses you've built and for the people you've impacted, but for who you are and for putting world class above everything else. My favorite people to interview and just be around are people that are world class first. Having dates with your wives, talking about your kid, raising your kids right, and just being a world class human being. There's nothing more important, man. So much respect. Let me know if there's anything I could do for you as well.
Thank you so much, Peter. I appreciate you and your tribe, man. I appreciate it.
Have a great day, man. We'll talk soon.
You too.
All right, guys. I know you guys are getting, you're all fired up. I'm excited to hear the feedback from you. So I want to hear, what are 1 or 2 takeaways from you? I want you guys to post in the Facebook group. What are 1 or 2 takeaways that you think are going to make the biggest difference in your life and business based on what stage you're at? Look for things that really shifted your emotional frequency. And the goal for you guys is to operate with absolute clarity when you leave, right? Don't take action on everything he talked about. Remember, mastery versus overload. Simplify. What is the 1 or 2 things that you know without a shadow of a doubt are going to make the biggest difference in your life, and put those into action right away. Put in 20, 30 minutes in your schedule in the next 30 days to come back and watch again and take another action, but one action at a time. Remember, mastery versus overload. And don't wait till your back's against the wall. I challenge you guys to really start thinking and acting like real game changers. All right. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being part of the Academy. If you got invited by a guest, you can check out gamechangersmovement.com. But I appreciate you guys. Bedros, obviously that was amazing. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Have an amazing rest of your day, guys.